Franklin post-game against Nevada after a 46-11 win, telling the White Hat that he's full of poo. The only thing we're full of here on the BlueWhite Tailgate podcast is knowledge and opinions of Penn State football and athletics. Frank and Andy, the York Daily Record, Mike Gross of the Gross Rational Product, and Andrew Callista here to take you through and recap week one and into week two. Got a great guest, former Penn State Captain Mike Malinoski from Shenandoah, Pennsylvania, 3-year letter winner along the offensive line at Penn State from 1991 to 1993. So we're going to talk a lot of O-line play and a lot of fun things as well. Gentlemen, 46-11, Penn State does not cover the spread. I think we're all pretty much right on it, the way we thought the game was going to go. Anything stand out to you guys for Nittany Nation? Some positives, some maybe negatives that we'll get into in a little bit later.
I was surprised that they didn't run the ball a little better against this kind of an opponent. And, you can say that's nitpicking. They won in a blowout. But Franklin yesterday at his press conference said this was a fairly harsh statement for him. He said, I've been telling you guys we have 7 starters on the offensive line. Well, they've all got to play that way. Which indicates that he did not think they played that way. So that was one. Obviously, getting the ball to the wide receivers was big, and there was a lot of, we could get into that a little bit because there was a lot of good things there, I thought. And then the other thing was we've been talking a lot about depth on the defensive line. And again, you got a grade on the curve because of the opponent, but I thought they had some pretty good answers in that area, a lot of promise there. That you have these 2 great players who we'll mention in a minute, but they also have a lot of other bodies who they might be able to run in and out of the game and wear people out a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was on one hand a really good expected effort in that, and James pointed this out, not a lot of penalties.
Yeah.
The one that he was upset about at the end there, but not a lot of penalties, no turnovers. Drew was not spectacular because he couldn't throw the ball down the field, but he was highly efficient. It just looked like a really experienced team that feels like it should be highly ranked. Now, having said that, I'm almost stunned that Katron Allen and Nick Singleton combined for like 60 rushing yards and that they couldn't open up Nevada's defense by throwing the ball down the field. But, if this was 2 weeks from now, a month from now, whatever, you'd be like alarmed by that. But first game, it didn't seem like they lost guys to injury. That was important. I mean, we'll let it go, right? We'll give them a little bit of time to work this out. We're going to be hyper focused on all the things that don't look the way we think they should, right? Because they're so highly ranked. So I have to pull back a little bit, not get too tough on them for the first game.
Well, speaking of not being too tough on him, I normally do not defend James Franklin when he has one of these, we'll call it an episode, because a couple of times he's got into it with fans. I was standing right there. That's my video that I shot. And even a little bit before that, and as a football official at obviously a different level than Division I, I defend James because they were being held. Penn State was being held up, and James was told that the White Hat was going to pump the clock back up to 25 seconds. That did not happen. I still think Penn State had time to snap the ball off because that was around 18 seconds when that discussion started. But James was obviously very upset. He wants the number 2s, Ethan Grunkmeyer, to get a quality look than rather to rush something. So I got that. I was impressed with the wide receivers, just to keep that short as we get into it. At the same time, I was not calm. The warning alarms were going off in my head that Penn State was not able to run the football. And not that it just wasn't consistent, because I understand James's point about teams come in, hey, we have so many transfers, 54 new guys. What's the one thing as a defensive coordinator is going to do? Try to stop the run. At the same time, I would have thought Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, somebody would have popped one for a pretty big gainer. And that was the one thing that at least one time Penn State wasn't able to kind of find that groove. But let's talk about the positives first. If you guys are picking player of the game, Who earns a Lions Roar here on the Blue White Tailgate podcast with a player of the game?
Frank.
Oh, deny Dennis Sutton. I mean, he played his best game in the Orange Bowl of his career the last time he was on the field, and he just about equaled that his next time out on the field. I mean, he just dominated, and I mean, we'll see going forward if he's doing this the same way this coming week and the following week, then it's like he's on par with some of the elites. But yeah, he looked like on a different level. And 1A would be Trebor Pena, because I thought not only did he made catches, right? But it's the way he went about doing it. He looks like a professional out there. I think he's by far the best route runner on the team right now, maybe the best one they've had in a few years. So great audition for him.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before we went on the air, and Frank and I both said deny Dennis Sutton. It's pretty much of a no-brainer. He was showing up over and over and over. Great physical talent who plays with unbelievable intensity. I mean, he plays like he's mad and like he's really trying to make a statement. And that has developed lately. I think the postseason run, as Frank alluded, postseason run last year, and then certainly that was very much the case on Saturday. So he's the guy.
Tonight, Dennis Sutton, America is missing an opportunity. Corporate America is missing an opportunity to sign him to a national brand. Crest, Colgate, Shock Guard for Mouthpiece. Him sacking quarterbacks, making big hits, and then having him smile, DDS approved for their product. It just should happen. He's like, call him a dentist. Whatever. Corporate America is missing a problem. For me, I went a little bit different. Stayed along the defensive line. Zane Durant. I thought Zane Durant, he's going to be a problem. Plays so well, plays so hard, and he showed a side that a lot of people don't know about him. The guy's got softer hands than Derek Jeter, Nomar Garcia-Parra, A-Rod, whatever you want to say. Some would say softer hands than Honus Wagner, so who's possibly the greatest shortstop of all time. But he's displayed those. He was my player of the game, so Zane Durant earns a Lions Roar. Catching up with him about that interception, and also the young defensive tackles, what he saw from them.
Yeah, I got the hands. I used to play running back and linebacker, so that's my first position. Seeing the quarterback drop back, Xavier Gilliam had pressure on the quarterback. O-line let me through a little too easy, so I knew it probably was a screen or something coming back to the middle. So I just played it safe, backed up a little bit, read the eyes of the quarterback. He gave it straight to me.
What did you see from the young D tackles today?
I seen a lot of good stuff. Top Lennon flashed a lot. Played a lot of good ball. A lot of young D tackles stood out.
We talk to Zane Durant all day, every day. Just love talking football with him. What did you guys think of the defensive tackle play? And also we throw in there Chaz Coleman as well, because he looks like he's going to be a problem, has to make some adjustments when he's a free runner. But defensive tackle, going off of what Zane said.
So on that interception, Xavier Gilliam was about to destroy the Nevada quarterback, and he was obviously in a hurry to get rid of it, even though Xavier Gilliam did drill him on the play a second after he got rid of it. That was the one thing that I was trying to – I got the binoculars and I got the rosters, and I'm trying to figure out who's playing and who isn't and what are they doing. And I thought pretty much everybody who played in those, other than the two stars on the defensive line, to me, I thought they played pretty well. And actually, Jalen Harvey and Alonzo Ford were the two guys who started, who I wouldn't have known that they were going to start. But they didn't play I don't think they played a ton of reps. I thought other guys played as many as they did. So again, I thought that was a big positive out of this game on Saturday. There were a lot of things that were not perfect, but that was one thing that I think, again, always grading on a curve because of the opponent, but I thought their other defensive linemen showed some things.
Yeah, I think that's one area to be really, offers a lot of promise, be excited about. And that's what these first three games really in a big way are for, because we've heard about Chaz Coleman on the end and Yvonne Kamaju, freshman, and Xavier Gilliam. But they are learning on right now as we speak. And I thought they turned in a great first effort, great first game. And I'm really interested to see what we're looking at after the Villanova game with these linemen. How fast can they grow to be impact guys? Like,
and one thing we should point out is Zariah Fisher, who might end up being a guy who Franklin, at least according to what he says to us, is very, very high on. Probably could have played if he needed to on Saturday, but didn't, as he recovers from an injury, and he should be back soon. And he might be, he's certainly going to play a lot. So that's a guy that they did not even have, and we did not even get a look at on Saturday.
Yeah, I think they'll need some more veteran presence. So I think he's a really important piece going forward. When they get him back, can he stay healthy? It's huge.
You mentioned that veteran presence. I think Chaz Coleman, is going to benefit the most out of anybody that played on Saturday from the film breakdown after this first game, because he was a free runner a couple times and just either overran the play, didn't contain it, didn't have his feet underneath him. And that is such an easily correctable thing that once he's in the film room to put him up there. And, I talked about with some of the guys post game about that, like what advice they would give him. And it's just like, play within yourself. Don't let the play get away from you. You don't have to make that impact, that monster hit. A normal tackle is going to suffice just fine and do the job. So that's what these early games are about. Week number 2, noon kickoff. Penn State's a 41.5-point favorite over FIU as they come in after beating Bethune-Cookman. There's going to be stats all over the place, and that's what we're always going to look at, whether it's good, with how many wide receivers got catches, or whether it's, maybe alarming with 3.8 yards per carry in the run game. Beyond the stat sheet, who earns a Lions roar from you guys and us here on Blue White Tailgate podcast? Email the show, bluewhitetailgatepodcast@gmail.com, to have your opinions heard. I'm going to start, guys. Trebor Pena, I tweeted out during the game, middle of the first quarter, one thing's for sure, this guy could run some routes. I mean, he is shifty. I wrote up with Mike, and coming home, I compared him to a Jordan Norwood, Deion Butler. I mean, those are two pretty good receivers in Penn State history that knew how to get open. Trebor Pena does it, but what you don't see on the stat sheet, and from that, yes, he led the team in catches, he's a tenacious blocker downfield. Every time the ball was going around him, he had a hat on a hat. So I was really impressed with Pena in what he did when he wasn't getting the ball and his work ethic away from the ball. So for that, he earns a Lions roar for me as an unsung hero.
Well, I was going to say largely the same thing about Kyron Hudson. Those two guys, Pena and Hudson, were targeted 16 times in the game, and they made plays as receivers, but they're also really, and Liam Clifford is a guy who plays a lot on special teams too, and these guys are actual football players. They're not diva wide receivers. They're guys that plays and run around and hit people and tackle people sometimes, and on coverage units, and Hudson just looks like a pro to me. He just looks like a guy who is just a football player. He plays really hard, and it just looks right with him. He looks like a really mature guy to me.
Yeah, you should watch Hudson on King Mac's kickoff return, because he basically, I think, had 3 blocks on the play.
Yeah, he did.
So it's just that type of hustle that good things happen. I mean, hey, he's probably got to tighten up. He's not the route runner right at the moment that Trebor Pena showed, but the work ethic and his just all overall athleticism, yeah, I think a big difference. My unsung hero would be, I'll go with Ryan Barker, the kicker, because Penn State has had some issues early in the season, the past few years, with field goal kicking, and they turned to Barker last year, and he's been great since he ever got the chance. And he just came out in a game where they didn't need his points, and he was money, 4-4, just did his job, nothing spectacular, but that's going to be huge down the road if they can keep him and his head in place on target. It's going to show up big at some point. So
Frank is the all-time Penn State media leader in making points about and asking questions about special teams. And because of that, yesterday we learned that Penn State has a new starting punter. Right?
Yes. Gabe Nuoso. He was introduced before the game, and I think it caught some people, but Penn State never punted against Nevada.
Right.
So what I was hoping James would do, and he actually did even better, was kind of yesterday explain kind of where Gabe's coming from, because we've seen Gabe, right, for 3 years, because he's been the really big kickoff guy. But we kind of didn't really know where he was in anything else related to kicking and punting. And I thought James gave us some good stuff on how he was in the running for the starting place kicking position and just, where he's at punting. So I'm excited to see the 300-pound. I checked this, right? I texted Greg Kincaid, SID, Sports Information. I said, is Gabe, his listing at 297, is this accurate? Because I've seen other places list him at like 280. And he said, go with 297. So I don't know.
297 punter.
Is he the largest punter in the country at the moment, Andrew? Go.
Yes, I believe he is.
Okay.
I believe he is. I haven't verified that factually, but I believe he is.
He's also a cellist, which rings home, which resonates with us.
I texted Greg about that too, and he did not respond. So I don't know.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. That might be the largest cellist I've ever heard of as well. 6'6".
Yeah, that's
300
good size
pounds.
for a cellist. Good size.
The disposition of when people are taking pictures with him on the field after the game, it's hard. You see this man, and he is a man, and you think that's not a kicker when he's getting his photo taken.
Yeah, he doesn't look like a kicker.
He is.
Anyway, yeah, he looks like a defensive.
Such a gentle giant. Always a massive smile on his face. Always a massive smile on his face. Guys, before we get to our guest interview, Mike Malinoski, former Penn State captain, 3-year letter winner along the offensive line. What is the one thing you want to see Penn State accomplish, and you can't say come out of this game against FIU healthy on Saturday?
Well, I would just say run the ball. I would just say run the ball more effectively and also, get some more explosive plays. That's always an issue. And one of the things, here's something, though, that I think was noteworthy about Saturday, something to watch going forward, where Franklin said yesterday, a lot of teams are going to give you these easy access throws that are deeper to the sideline, that are horizontal, because not many college quarterbacks can make that throw. Well, Drew Allar can make that throw, and you saw some of that on Saturday. The one, I think it was an 18-yard play that Pena had, was almost like a bubble screen, except it was all the way out to the sideline. It was a hard throw from the far hash, you know what I mean? It was a long throw to make, where most teams are not even going to bother to defend that almost. I think you're going to see some of that kind of stuff, but we do need to see explosives in the run game and the pass game.
Yeah, I get the offensive line and running game in sync. And to me, it doesn't matter how you do it. If you need to try to throw the ball down the field to help loosen that up, but you should not be going to the point like we've seen in years past where teams like this can throw an extra guy or two in the box and it halts your run game. You got to be able to figure out how to go break that down against Nevada and FIU and Villanova, because my God, if you can't do it then what are you going to do when the Big Ten comes? Because they're all going to do that, right? Everybody's going to do that to Penn State. They're not going to.
It's not going to let or anything. Yeah, I agree.
Right. They're not going to let Nick Singleton and Katron Allen have free runs. So how do you break that, right? And I mean, it's the first game. No real alarm bells. Sorry, Andrew, but we got to see this make some progress here, right? I mean, we got to see them be able to do that because, here's the other thing. I mean, for all the success for the receivers, Drew's first 13 completions, how many yards they gained at it? 102. Okay. So again, we're looking at the guy who has the great arm, who's not able, or whatever the case is, throwing the ball down the field. That's hard to do. Complete 13 passes and gain 100 yards. That's even hard to try to accomplish, right?
The number that I always look at, and I think people should look at with the pass game, is yards per attempt. It's they always talk about completion percentage. They always talk about touchdown interception ratio. Yards per attempt is, to me, the one number that most effectively measures the pass game. Now, they ended up with a pretty good 8.7 yards per attempt on Saturday. That's pretty good, but it's not great. It's pretty good. And, 2/3 of the way through the game, I mean, it was nowhere near that. It got better as the game went on when it was a blowout.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you guys brought up kind of the wide receiver, and I'll call an audible. Before we get to our guest interview, we're talking offensive line. I did ask Trebor Pena just about communication. It did seem, and Frank, you mentioned, Drew being very efficient. That doesn't happen with 3 new offensive weapons at wide receiver without them guys being on the same page. This is Pena talking about Drew Allar and the wide receiver group being on the same page this early on in the season.
Just going out on the field, it kind of just felt like, we were practicing again. So it was just a routine. We've done it so many times, and we've practiced it so many times that when you get out there on the field, it's kind of just like second nature.
That was the efficiency was surprising to me because I thought there would have been some miscommunication on routes the first time in game action. Now, what was surprising to me in another way was Penn State didn't really take that shot downfield that you guys have alluded to that they kind of need to do against better teams, better equipped teams that aren't going to be able to bring those guys up into the box for Penn State to get to where they want to go.
Yep.
I mean,
the opposite of play action. You know what I mean? It's run action. It's pass action to open up the run.
Exactly.
I mean, we're not going to panic, and we're not going to, because by the end of last year, Penn State, the same offensive line, one that's not even as deep as this one, got rolling. Yeah. And they were every bit as reason why they were one of the best in the country. So there's no reason why this can't get like that. We just want to see more of it soon, right? That's all.
I'm with you.
Get the tight ends more involved too. That could help.
Always. We love tight ends here on Blue White Tailgate podcast.
Almost as much as cornerbacks.
We love talking the offensive line here on the Blue White Tailgate podcast. And to do that, we bring in 3-year letter winner and former Penn State captain on the 1993 team, former Nittany Lion offensive lineman, Mike Malinoski. Mike, how's it going? What are you up to right now?
What I'm up to right now? Working now. I'm taking some time off here to do this podcast. I got I'm a partner in a accounting firm, Baker Tilly. I'm based in Lancaster. I was like the 6th largest firm in the United States. So they keep me very, 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 very busy all the time.
Very busy, very busy. That's the football season, and that's what we're doing. We're breaking from James Franklin's press conferences, a couple of media availabilities earlier today on Tuesday. Mike, offensive line, that pretty much determines the fate of your football team. You know that all too well. You've been around some great players during your time at Penn State. You've read all the preseason hype regarding this offensive line at Penn State. What are you expecting this O-line to do and to carry Penn State this season?
Well, I would expect them to build on pretty much what they had going on last year. I think by the end of last season, they were playing probably really good as an offensive line unit. And you would think, the guys they have coming back, another year of experience, working with the Phil Troutline again, and another year with him, you'd be better. Now, I know probably they said early on this year the first game wasn't as great, but that's always the first game too. You get a lot of that stuff in the first game, going against different schemes, different people. Maybe you got a look you weren't expecting, something like that. So that could always happen as well.
Hey, Mike, I wanted to ask you, you were there in 93, right before that 94 team. You were part of that offensive line, though. You knew all those guys. Mm-hmm. You played with all those guys that were there for 94 and 5.
Yep.
What do you remember maybe being like the difference, the growth aspect, whatever it is between your senior year on that line in 93 and then what came after it with those same guys? Is there something that you can kind of remember back to that is part of that evolution that made him special?
I mean, I would think our offensive line coach at the time, a guy named Craig Service, was maybe a quirky guy, you want to call him at best. He was actually an engineer. So he would explain stuff to us like in engineering terms. you got to get your right foot in quadrant A, and you have to get, your left foot over in this quadrant. And when you're doing this step, you have to step, if you're 1 millisecond too slow, you're not going to get there in time. And it's just stuff like that. And he was very quirky, but he explained the offensive line and how to do it to a point that it was very, he just taught it very, very well. I mean, I think the guys just understood it so much better from Service's way of teaching it. And then, and then they just got bigger and stronger too. We had John Thomas came in, he became our strength coach, I think in 92. Like a guy like Jeff Hardy, he'll give you an example. He injured his knee, I think, his freshman year, which would have been 91. So Hardy was never on the field. You ever see Hardings his freshman year? Comes back in the spring. It's like, what happened to Hardings? He just gained 30 pounds in the weight room, And, it was like a guy like that became a 2-time all-American. So, I mean, just a great offensive line coach. Helps having running backs like Kajana Carter, Mike Archie, guys like that. So that always helps. But I said, just a great offensive line coach, a great strength coach, and good running backs and skill players around you to kind of make you even look better when you don't block well. I had a lot of that. I show my kids videos all the time saying, look how I missed this block, but Kajana still got 20 yards on it. So, nobody saw that on TV except me.
He was decent. Mike, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the unique things that make for a good center, maybe other than the purely physical thing, because Nick Dawkins on this offensive line might be on the low end in terms of physical gifts, but he brings a lot of other things to the table. So what makes a good center?
Well, a good center is somebody who is very, very smart. Let's put it that way. They're able to understand the looks they're seeing in front of them, whether it's an odd looking front, meaning there's a guy on the center, whether it's an even looking front, meaning if they're not on the center, they're kind of like on the guards, they're offensive tackles. I mean, somebody who is very smart. I mean, that's probably, that's all offensive linemen though too. We're the smartest guys on the field. So, you have to be smart to be an offensive lineman. I mean, I coached high school ball back in the 90s at Shenandoah. Actually coached now at Lebanon, but I won't talk about that. We're having a hard time at Lebanon High. But, probably my center at Shenandoah, a guy named Dave Wunderlich, he's an attorney now somewhere down in Virginia. He was probably the smartest guy that I've ever coached. And he was my center. And it was like, he's perfect center. He's the smartest guy on the team, just like, like a guy like Bucky Greeley for us. He was a really smart guy. And Bucky could understand, everything going on at center and understand what we were seeing, be able to communicate all that, just those kind of things. Plus, you got to be physically, have to have the physical ability, but you have to have the head too to do it.
Look, I think over your left shoulder is that a Craig Fayak picture from the game-winning kick against Notre Dame in 90?
Yes, that is when I was in. So right here, that's Craig Fayak. That'd be Bill Spohr. I happen to be on the sidelines right there, holding my helmet up in the air, and I saw it in State College when they walking down the street. I'm like, look at this picture. I'm like, I got to buy that. The guy had no idea that, I was buying it. That I was actually in the picture.
Well, you're in the video, the sideline video, going crazy. That was your freshman year at Penn State, right?
Second year.
Yeah. We had Craig Fayak on the program before the game, before the Notre Dame game in the Orange Bowl this year. Of course, we were talking about that. But okay, so that's a lower ranked Penn State team knocking off the number one team in the country. You've played on a lot of games against higher ranked teams when you were at Penn State.
Yeah.
Now, Penn State this year is going to be number 2. Don't really have, the teams to climb over. Ohio State and Oregon, though, both highly ranked. What's it going to take for Penn State? What's the mentality that it's going to take for them to get the monkey off their back a little bit in these games to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, somebody always just needs to make another play than they do. They got to get one guy that's going to make a play for them that could get out there and could actually throw that Paul on 3rd and 12 or whatever and get that tough first down or make the tough catch, or somebody on defense who they just don't have. They always seem to just always be like that one play behind. I don't know. I guess
in your year with 1991.
Yeah.
Well, the 1991 Penn State Miami game is legendary. If Saka's not sick, Penn State probably wins that football game at the end. Was Saka the guy? And should Penn State fans be looking to Drew Allar to have that kind of Tony Saka mentality to move Penn State further down?
I mean, he's been a starter for that long now, right? He should be. That's what everybody's expecting of him now. You know, you're not a 3-year starter to not be. I mean, you got to be kind of somebody who takes over on the field now. You know, you're third year out there. You know, you should know just as much as the coaches know as to what's going on out on this field as a third-year quarterback. I know as a third-year offensive lineman, fifth-year offensive lineman, I knew every position. I knew everything that was going on with offensive line. We knew just as much as the coaches did. You know, the guys that played a lot. So I think Allar is going to be the same way. You know, he's got to be kind of able to take it to that point where he's like a coach on the field now, being that's his third year starting. Definitely.
Mike, when you watch Penn State, I mean, do you watch the offensive line particularly just because you played there, or is that just a given, or not so much because of?
It's all football. I watch the offensive line, no matter what it is. You know, if it's professional, high school, youth football, and I'm watching what the offensive line is doing.
I can't
get away from it.
Yes. Well, is there anything about what you saw from this line from last year? I mean, I know maybe you didn't get a chance to watch a whole lot of the opening game, but anything about this line or any of the guys on it that just kind of stand out to you, just knowing your expertise and your background? Is there anything particular?
I mean, I know Rucci's kid is a pretty good kid, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you saw him. I mean, just I was watching. So I coach an offensive line at Lebanon, so I'll look for videos that pop up online throughout the year. And there was one about Rucci teaching how to do a certain kind of block against Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. I'm like, man, that looks so good. What Rucci just did there, that is like professional football player right there. You know, just how he is. I mean, just the size of the guys and the athleticism that they have now is just, you know, it's. I mean, I'd probably get killed every day now if I go out there with these guys, but still.
But you would be like them now if you played.
I guess, yeah, I guess.
Right?
I weigh as much as they do, but I'm not as physically fit. We'll put it that way. Yeah.
Okay. Mike, I didn't know you were coaching the offensive line at Lebanon. Lebanon High School was about 5 blocks away from where I'm sitting right now. And
okay, that's right. That's right. I know. Now you said Mike. I know you did Cedar Crest girls basketball game last year against Lebanon, maybe. Right? Yes. Right. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah. A whole different.
My daughter's got to be more aggressive. You know, she sits back too much against them.
Your daughter's got to be more aggressive.
Oh my God, yeah. Absolutely.
Really? She seemed like a tough kid to me. Certainly a talented kid. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well. Lebanon is, for people who don't know, Lebanon High School sports. I mean, they're really almost at ground zero in terms of interest, participation, and I can't even imagine what that must be like for you. What do you try to instill in those kids that are really at step one?
We try to instill up here it's got to be dedication. It's got to be hard work. You got to want it. You got to want to put your heart into something. You know, like football nowadays it's just life in general too. You try to you're going to start working. You got to be able to get up to go to work every day. You don't feel like showing up today to practice. You don't show up. I mean, there were times in the summer where we had 10 kids show up to a summer workout for a 6A football team. I mean, sometimes there's days you can't practice 11 on 11 because we don't have enough of players, and we're a 6A football team. And I got to understand some of the kids' circumstances too. You know, some of them I have to work, coach, because my parents, need me to work. And it's what are you going to tell them? No. Sure. You know, it's a very, I don't know who else deals with it than the Lebanon guys. Really, when I volunteered last year to help Tyler out, Pritchett, I don't think he knew what he was. I mean, I kind of knew a little bit what was going on, but he didn't know what was going on. And I didn't think it would be as bad as it was. But you know what? We got a bunch of kids that are working hard. They show up every day. I will say, although we're 0-2, we are a better team than last year. So hopefully we get one of those wins. That's all. I hate to see these seniors going 40,
Mike, you're from the coal regions.
Yeah.
How does your upbringing in Shenandoah and the people that I went to school with in Monte City are going to harass me for how I just fully pronounced the town's name, because in Monte City we call it Shenandoah. I taught there when I was out of college. I have a lot of great friends in Shenandoah. how's your upbringing in that blue collar town, and with Joe Roots, who played at West Virginia? You were at Penn State. There's that photograph of you two walking off the field, and then later on, Harrison and Carduff, West Virginia, Penn State guys as well. So the town's used to producing Division I talent. How does that upbringing and what Coach Paterno instilled in you translate to what you're trying to get through to kids today?
I mean, it's the same way when we coached back in the 90s with them. It was just, it's dedication, hard work really are the two things. They're going to help get you through this hump they were in right now, but also just give you skills, for when, as you get older too. I mean, it's just, I know Shenandoah was like Mike. I had to walk to school every day, and like from where I lived in Shenandoah Annunciation Church to Shenandoah High School, that's like a mile each way. My kids don't even live a mile from Cedar Crest High School, and the bus picks them up. And it's like, it was just a different upbringing. And like the kids in Lebanon, I think if my wife's a superintendent there, so I know a little bit more about it, but I think the kids, if you're less than 2 miles from the school, you have to walk to school every day. So imagine, raining out, stuff like that. I don't know. It's just hard for some of those kids, I bet, even to get to school. So, but it was just things like that. And that's how we grew up in Shenandoah, though. Like there was just a lot of, it was a, what they call it. Ron's Ice House had the shirts, the only Wild West town to the east or something like that. So it was a rough town to grow up in at times, but fun. You know how it was, Andrew, in the coal region, right?
I know how it was in Monterey City. Absolutely. Shenandoah's our big rival. Always fun bus trips, always fun basketball games, always fun football games. Well, let me ask you, wide receiver is a big talking point on this Penn State football team. You played one, OJ McDuffie.
Yeah.
A lot of people would say he's possibly the best ever wide receiver at Penn State, especially for what he did in the NFL. Terry Smith was also on that team.
Mm-hmm.
What does it take to be a good wide receiver in the Big Ten, going up against the competition that Hudson, Pena, Ross, that they're going to experience this year? Hudson already, coming from USC, kind of knows a little bit about it. But what does it take? Because last year, wide receiver was a big source for the squad.
They got to be good route runners, right? Got to be physical. They got to understand coverages. There's just a lot of things that come into it to be a good receiver. You got to be very athletic, great hands. There's a lot to be. I'm a lineman. So I couldn't tell you what I see in receivers, but I would think the best receivers are the ones that understand the coverages that they're getting and are great route runners.
What made McDuffie so good?
OJ was just a great athlete. He was fast. He was a good route runner. He's one of those guys where you're running the route and you could see him. He gets the corner to kind of turn. And the second the corner's turning his hips, he's cutting the other way. And creating all this extra space against them. He was just a great athlete. OJ played baseball at Penn State too. I don't know if you knew that. He played, I think, 2 years on their baseball team. So
I didn't know.
Hey, Mike, when you're talking offensive line, there's been so much publicity about how this could be, like Andrew mentioned earlier, their best offensive line since '94. What is something beyond? When fans see a good line, they're seeing big holes for the running backs. They're protected quarterback. But what would be behind the scenes something that you think's a real key to becoming that great offensive line that maybe fans can't see? They wouldn't know, because it's still 5 guys working together, right? It's different than anything else on the team.
It is a lot of film work. You have to. It was like an eye opener for me when I got to college, just like what film work does for you. High school coaches telling you this or that, and you listen to them like, okay, great. But until you actually see it on film and see how things work together, I think it's kind of, you get like an education in almost a bachelor's degree in football, when you go to college like that and play. And the film work just adds so much knowledge to your game that if you're not doing the film work, it's going to show. You're going to show that you don't know what you're doing, basically.
Kind of big picture here from where the program was when you played, and then a lot of things that the program went through since, and then a lot of things that college football has changed since. And big picture, how proud are you? What do you feel about where Penn State football is right now?
Well, coming out of what happened to them in 2011, 2012, I couldn't be more prouder than how they've rebounded and how quickly they rebounded. Really, if you think about it, that was set up to basically destroy the football program. And 4 years later, they're winning the Big Ten. They should have been in the college football playoffs. I mean, it's just, I'm always proud of Penn State. And it's always something that you'll always have, being proud of the school that you played for. But yeah, it was, just how they came out of that. Now football is different though now with this NIL and the way players get paid and the free agency and things like that. So it's kind of worn off a little bit. It's not me, it's still Penn State and all that stuff, but sometimes it's like, hey, you're just getting guys in here, renting them for a year. It's not like they're coming to your school to be part of your school, all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit different now than it was then.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, could you give me one of your best Joe Paterno stories, something that sticks with you 30 years later?
Well, I tell you, I could give you a bunch of Joe stories, but one that if you're ever going somewhere with my wife and you're walking and you walk down a sidewalk and then the sidewalk turns this way, but there's grass in between, the two sidewalks. I'll just cut across the grass, right? I'll cut across the grass and I'll just go there and cut off, make it a shortcut. Well, if you do that in front of Joe Paterno, he would yell at you so loud. He'd be like, Malinoski, get off of that grass. Somebody's working to fix that, and you're over there ruining on them. Respect the person's property, he's basically telling you. So he would everybody do that. You'd always hear Joe yelling at them about, get off the grass, So anywhere, and I told that story to my wife. Now we're not allowed to freaking walk anywhere and cut through grass. We always have to walk on sidewalks. We can't, she'll always say, your coach won't let you do that, stuff like that. So
why does that stand out to you? Why'd you pick that one after all these years?
I have no idea. It's just because it happened yesterday. We were somewhere and we were walking somewhere, and I'm like, oh, look, they're walking through the grass over there. She said to me or something like that. Joe would yell at them. I'm like, yeah, Joe would yell at them, absolutely. But there was a lot of things about Joe, though. He started a profanity cup the one year because the guy's cursing too much, and he goes, I'm going to start the profanity cup. And he goes, I'm going to put the first quarter. And he goes, this is horse manure. And he puts a quarter in a cup. And it's like, everybody just starts laughing at him. I'm like, what the hell are you doing, Joe? Horse manure? And you put 25 cents in the profanity cup? So.
Did he literally say manure? Or
oh, absolutely. Yes. Have horse manure. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. With him, ever heard him curse is that one time where he got in that fight with that coach from Rutgers, that Mike Graber after the game or whatever. Yeah. I didn't know he had it in him.
That's on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know he had it in him. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that wasn't the worst Joe Pa imitation I've heard. Okay, but it wasn't the worst.
Okay. Talking about inflation, swear jars are now like $5 and $10.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Send that one up to Congress about inflation. We've talked offensive line. We've talked about the guys struggling 3.8 yards per carry.
Yeah. Against I take that at Lebanon any day, man. 3.8 yards per carry.
The toughest question for the Shenandoah native, if you go back to Kielbasi Fest, what is your route and what's your meat of choice for kielbasi heaven in the coal regions of Pennsylvania?
Well, no offense to Dave Lukashunas, but I'm a Covalunics guy. I grew up right around the street from the Covalunics. Paul Covalunic actually drove my mother to the Locust Mountain Hospital the day I was born. Like my mom was going to labor. Paul's like, till my dad was working. This is a story I'm told that if you go into labor, call Paul, he'll take you to the hospital. So here enough, I went to labor and Paul Covalunic drove her to the hospital. So I got to be Covalunics. I mean, there's nothing more I could say, man,
Absolutely. Covalunics, legendary all throughout Pennsylvania and even national. They get some love for the quality.
Oh, my God. It's amazing, isn't it?
They did have, and I don't know if Mike Rose, Frank Bonanni know this, when the search for the Pope was on, they would take a picture of their steamer smoker, and they would have the white smoke going up, and they're like, not for the Pope, but the kielbasi's in there getting cooked right now. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, just like the Sistine Chapel, and a lot of people in the coal regions in Schuylkill County would say Covalunics ranks higher than the Sistine Chapel, especially around Easter and Christmas time, because you got to get in line and you got to pull your number.
So where I grew up in Shenandoah, I lived on Cherry Street. They were on Chestnut Street. And there was an alley in back of my house, Columbus Street. And the house in back of us burnt down. So it was open now, the Columbus Street. But right across the street in Columbus Street was when before Covellenics moved down to Main Street. They were right there. They had their smokehouse, like right there across the alley. So it was right to my backyard. So my house would smell like smoked kielbasi all day because the smoke would then come towards our house, right up through where that vacant house is, and it would go through our house. So
is that how
like
you,
smoked kielbasi?
That's because, and that's how you became a guard and not
Yes.
a quarterback. Am I correct?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I just want to track that down. So,
Yes.
Mike, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen.
Mike Malinoski.
1993 Penn State captain and 3-year letter winner along the offensive line in the early 90s for Penn State. Mike, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, I want to thank Mike for taking the time and joining the BlueWhite Tailgate podcast. Remember, if you want to hear from a guest, you have an idea for a guest or questions for any guest, send us an email at bluewhitetailgatepodcast@gmail.com. Also, follow us on our new Instagram page, Blue White Tailgate Pod. Got a lot of great engagement and a lot of views after the first week here. Guys, there was a lot of big games last week. This week, not so much. Iowa State, Troy Clemson, Illinois at Duke, maybe the marquee game that jumps out to me for the Illini going on the road. But week 1 was pretty awesome. Number 8, Bama goes down. Notre Dame goes down. I whiffed on that game. UNC got boat raced. I'm not sure if PR extraordinaire Miss Hudson is in the transfer portal. I'm not quite sure about that. I can't wait for Hulu episode 1 on UNC football team. Clemson goes down to LSU and Texas versus Ohio State. But before that, James Franklin with an amazing soundbite on what he likes to do for a big game.
And I tell everybody I'm going down the basement. I'm not trying to be antisocial, but I want to go down the basement and watch games. And if they want to come down, great. But they all know not to come down and start peppering me with questions. And then I sit sometimes in my boxers and a T-shirt and watch games and try to relax and enjoy it.
Taken out of context, that might be my favorite soundbite I've ever heard James Franklin do. Besides when he got shot in the tail with the paintball.
Oh yeah, he was curiously anxious to share that with us that time. That was in response to a question from Neil Rudell, and like Frank and I, he was on the Zoom, and Brennan sitting in the room said, Neil's probably sitting there in his boxers right now, which he probably was. So there you go. I thought that was fun. That was fun.
That's good. Did you write about that, Mike?
Yeah, that was one of my 5 takeaways. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
I do 5 takeaways. Yeah.
No, I couldn't stop laughing when I heard him say that. Just because for somebody, I picture like Twitter world going, or X world, going nuts with like no context college football quote and just running wild. So I found that very good. Guys, Alabama might be looking for a coach at the end of the year if they could come up with a buyout. I know a lot of people are saying not for them to panic, that everything is fixable, but the Alabama fan base is not happy. Lee Corso, by the way, was perfect in his college football game days pick on his last show. So shout out to Lee Corso. And yes, he picked FSU because of his connection there, being a coach. Yeah, and it worked out. I was disappointed in the way Notre Dame played. I was disappointed in the way Notre Dame coached against Miami. They were not tough up front on the offensive line. That kind of surprised me. And credit to the Miami fans. They actually showed out and made that a little bit of a hostile environment. And that totally surprised me. I was completely wrong on that one. $6 million proves that, and a lot of hype proves that you do not just go on the road and win football games for Texas versus OSU versus Ohio State. What are your guys' thoughts on this past weekend of games?
Well, the first thing I would say is I know some people are saying LSU is number 1 because they went on the road and beat Clemson, and that was a great win. But as I've said before, I'm not as high on Clemson as some other people are. Ohio State, to me, in terms of the whole season, the big picture, Ohio State is the big winner because this Matt Patricia defense, which is a 3-4, and it looked like they were able to confuse and throw so many, almost outnumber Ohio State, Texas on the back end. But anyway, my point is Ohio State looks like their defense is going to be able to keep them, rolling while everything else falls into place, and they figure out what they are, and they figure out what their quarterback is, all of that stuff. I thought this was a huge weekend plus for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Ohio State did anything I didn't expect, because they're so deep, so talented, that I don't care if they change coordinators. I expect them to play really well on defense at home against Texas. And, for all the hype Arch Manning's got, I mean, what has he really done really on the field to deserve it? So we really don't know.
And that on here, we haven't seen enough. Yeah.
What he's about. Okay. So, but the other thing is overreactions early. I mean, Notre Dame, when they lose to Northern Illinois last year, was there anyone in the world thinking they were going to rebound and get themselves together anywhere close to what they did? Well, but they did. And, I don't study Alabama, so I don't know how close or how far apart they are, but we know they've got talent. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on that coach, but he's been there for like a few minutes, really, still. So I'm going to wait a little bit. I don't care if they're ranked lower than they've been in like 30 years. It's week one.
Yeah, I think you're right. Things can change, but if they don't change, if they don't start playing if they go 8-4, I don't care what his buyout is. There's nobody in Alabama that cares what his buyout is.
Right.
I mean, they'll levy, they'll add to the state income tax to pay the guy's buyout. I mean, that's not that the buyout is not an issue. If he loses 3 or 4 games. So, but I agree with you, Frank. Let's not freak out. They have a lot of players. I don't think he's a bad coach based on his resume. He's a great coach, and they could. There's a lot of season, a lot of football.
What Bama doesn't have is heart. I mean, when you looked at some of those plays, they have defensive guys just jogging to the football.
Yeah, that's not good.
I mean, that's not Alabama football. And it's been pointed out by a lot of times, and they would say, well, if Nick Saban was the coach. Penn State kind of has this problem, in the past, where they would say, well, if Paterno was the coach, well, Nick Saban's not the coach. So it's up to KD to figure it out, and get his guys motivated. You can't be jogging on the field as Florida State guys are just running all around you. Take an angle. Notre Dame, not to worry about. LSU, I would put them. I didn't have them in the playoff before week 1. I'm putting them in the playoff now after what they did.
Did not even get a real strong game from their quarterback. I think really won that game physically more decisively than the final score indicates. But again, I don't think Clemson is physically what a lot of people think they are. But again, you go on the road and win that game. That's impressive, no doubt.
Ohio State's win was good for Oregon, and it was good for Penn State 100%. Texas, they got a tough schedule, so we'll see how that goes with Arch Manning. But the anointed king, I mean, instead of being Prince William, I mean, he's Prince Harry. I mean, like he did not look good in that game. He did not look good in that game.
He didn't. And again, I think I think Ohio State did some things to confuse him. But yeah, I don't know. We don't know. We don't know what he is. The hype thing with him got way out of hand. Way out of hand.
Yeah, it's the media's fault. It's not Arch Manning's fault. He's out there to play the game. Sarkisian is correct that this is the media's fault. And the only person in the country that had a worse day than Arch Manning was Paul Feinbaum. Like, that was it. Because that guy was way off. Mike, I know you like to write about that.
Every week I do the market report and whose stock went up and whose stock went down over the last weekend. And number one in the stock going up is Lee Corso. Has anybody ever had a better last day at work? And number one in the stock going down is Paul Feinbaum, except that, he's going to get a lot of callers to his radio show.
Ric Flair, the nature boy, maybe you guys could work this into a column, took him to task on X. I would love to get Ric Flair, the nature boy, in a showdown, like cage match with Paul Feinbaum. That would be entertainment.
I thought you were going to say get Ric Flair on the show. Yeah.
Oh, we could try that. Let's get some funding for that cage match theory. All right, guys, time to pick the game. It's going to be a barn burner, 41.5 point spread. I didn't even look at what the over-under was. I think it was 54.5. Maybe I glanced at it. I'm not sure. But 41.5, noon kick, FIU versus Penn State on the road.
I'll go 55-10.
Well, I already have my pick in, and it's pretty darn close to Mike's. I'm going 59-10, and I'm doing it because I think Penn State will be motivated actually to prove to whoever themselves about some of the things we talked about, the run game, the offensive line. I think they will not look like Alabama going on and off the field on Saturday.
Frank, what did you say? What was your Penn State score?
59-10.
Okay, 49. Okay, I'm going 58. I'll go 58-7. 58.
So we're in the same ballpark. Great minds.
I always like to do 7 touchdowns and either 2 or 3 field goals. That's kind of like my
think about it too. Yeah.
And if you're watching and you saw me looking up, yes, I was doing the math 7 times 7 and then adding 9 points to it. I wanted to make sure that didn't come out to be the exact same as Frank. And I do think the defense is going to hold him to single digits. So and Jim Knowles, as we go out, you're going out watching the video of Jim Knowles walking off the field after his first win at Beaver Stadium. The most unassuming man and the most unassuming walk into the tunnel, just walking straight down. I don't even know if the fans recognized him underneath the stadium as he was walking to the locker room. For Mike Gross of the Gross Rational Product and Frank Winandy of the York Daily Record, as Jim Knowles walks out of Beaver Stadium. Thanks for watching this edition of the Blue White Tailgate podcast. Follow us on Instagram, all of our social medias between us 3 on X as well, and send us your emails and thoughts, BlueWhiteTailgatePodcast@gmail.com. Till next week against Nova.